In 1993, Dorothy Smith, better known as Patra, had just become the first female Jamaican artist to hit #1 on the Billboard reggae charts. 2 years later, she walked into a recording studio with Aaron Hall, the lead singer from Guy.
You are American, I'm a Jamaican. Me, I go show you where the right.
What happened in that studio would haunt her for decades.
I just grabbed them 3 days, then Aaron's got on with an apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Like it's Aaron.
By 2005, the same woman was sitting in a Jamaican jail cell, charged with defrauding 10 musicians out of over $1 million. The truth about what really happened to Patra is darker than anyone imagined. So let's get into it. From church choir to criminal charges. Dorothy Smith was 15 when she first stepped onto a stage in Kingston, Jamaica. The church choir girl from rural Westmoreland had transformed herself into Lady Patra, a fierce dancehall DJ whose rapid-fire lyrics and provocative outfits set sound systems on fire across the island. Her cousin suggested the name Patra, after Egyptian Queen Cleopatra. Dorothy liked the royal sound of it. By 1992, she had dropped the lady and was simply Patra, the queen of the pack. At Sting Festival that year, she delivered a performance that changed everything. Epic Records executives watched from the VIP section as this unknown teenager commanded the stage with confidence that seemed impossible for someone so young. Within weeks, she had a recording contract and a plane ticket to New York. Queen of the Pack exploded onto American radio in 1993. Think About It climbed to number 21 on the rap charts. Worker Man hit number 1 on the dance charts and cracked the top 20 on R&B. Romantic Call with Yo-Yo peaked at number 55, with a music video featuring Tupac Shakur that put her face in front of millions.
When I was in Los Angeles doing the video, I was in my trailer, and Angela Ellaby came to me and said to me, "Patra, someone is at your door." So I was like, "Who's at my door?" And he told me it was Tupac at the door. I was so surprised.
For 13 consecutive weeks, her album sat at number 1 on the reggae charts, the longest run in chart history. She was 20 years old, gold certified, and being hailed as the female Shabba Ranks. But success came with invitations to parties where young women disappeared into back rooms with powerful men. It came with late-night phone calls from executives who wanted more than just her voice. It came with collaborations that weren't really about music at all. In 1995, Aaron Hall's people called. The lead singer from Guy wanted her on his new project. Hall was New Jack Swing royalty, the voice behind hits like Groove Me and I Like. Working with him could take her career to the next level. The recording session for Scent of Attraction took place at a private studio in New Jersey. Hall was charming, professional, complimentary about her talent. But something felt wrong from the moment she walked through the door. The way he looked at her, the way his hand lingered when he helped her adjust the microphone, the way the studio engineer suddenly had to leave for an extended break. What happened next in that studio would never be spoken about publicly. But when Patra walked out hours later, something fundamental had changed. She completed the recording, smiled for the cameras during promotional appearances, and watched Scent of Attraction climb to number 82 on the Hot 100. Then she started disappearing. Her third album in 2003, The Great Escape, barely registered on the charts. By 2004, she wasn't performing at all. Fans wondered where their queen had gone. Industry insiders whispered about personal problems, label disputes, creative differences. The truth was simpler and more devastating. Patra was broke. Record label accounting had left her with virtually nothing despite platinum sales. Legal fees from contract disputes had drained her savings. Family members in Jamaica were depending on her for support, but the money had stopped coming. In October 2003, she met with struggling musicians in Montego Bay. These were talented artists desperate to escape Jamaica's limited opportunities. They had heard about her international connections, her success in America, her ability to open doors. Patra offered them a solution. For the right price, she could secure UK visas and social security cards. She had connections, she explained. People owed her favors. She could make their dreams come true. Over the next 13 months, 10 musicians handed over their life savings. $1,038,000 Jamaican dollars in total. They left cash at the security desk of her Bogue Village residence, trusting the woman whose voice had once filled stadiums. The visas never came. The social security cards never arrived. The money simply vanished. In April 2005, police arrived at her door. The Queen of the Pack was arrested on fraud charges. Her bail set at $500,000 Jamaican dollars. When the case went to court, one victim testified that he had been receiving death threats since her arrest. The woman who once performed for thousands was now facing years in prison for stealing from the people who believed in her most. The Aaron Hall Connection. While Patra sat in a Jamaican courthouse in 2005, Aaron Hall was living in luxury in New Jersey, his voice still commanding respect in R&B circles. But beneath the surface, Hall was harboring secrets that would eventually destroy his reputation and expose a pattern of predatory behavior stretching back to the early 1990s. Gloria Velez was 16 when she met Aaron Hall at a Miami nightclub in 1994.
Gloria Velez herself. She told me that he was dealing with her when she was 16 years old. I think she made a statement to everybody else.
She was a video vixen, dancing for hip-hop artists and building her reputation in the industry. Hall was 30, a successful R&B star with money, fame, and connections that could change her life. According to multiple sources, including Hall's own admissions in later interviews, their relationship became physical immediately. Hall claimed he didn't know her real age, calling her a puppy when he eventually found out. But he didn't end the relationship. Instead, he took her on trips, including one to Jamaica where customs officials discovered her true age when they checked her passport. Velez became pregnant at 16 and gave birth to Hall's son when she was 17. Years later, when Hall appeared on Vlad TV bragging about their encounter, describing how he grabbed her hand, went upstairs, and had his way with her.
I just grabbed them for 3 days, then Aaron's got on with an apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Like it's Aaron.
Velez responded with fury. She wrote a diss track calling him a pedophile. She posted photos of bruises she claimed he had given her. She accused him of being a deadbeat father who had never contributed to their child's care. But Velez wasn't Hall's only victim. In November 2023, a federal lawsuit was filed against Aaron Hall and Sean Diddy Combs. The plaintiff, identified as Jane Doe, alleged that both men had essayed her and a friend after an industry party at MCA Records in 1990 or 1991. According to the lawsuit, the women were invited to Hall's apartment for an after-party. Jane Doe claimed Combs coerced her into sex while Hall waited his turn in another room. Then they switched. Her friend, according to the filing, was assaulted by both men in a separate room. The lawsuit described Hall as bursting into the room where Jane Doe was being assaulted by Combs, pinning her down and forcing himself on her. The woman claimed she was 16 at the time. Jodeci members were initially named as witnesses, suggesting this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a pattern that multiple industry figures had observed. When legal papers were served, Aaron Hall vanished. His attorney filed court documents stating they had effectively exhausted all reasonable methods of locating him. They requested permission to serve him through newspaper advertisements because he couldn't be found. The timing of Hall's predatory behavior coincided exactly with Patra's peak years in the industry. Their 1995 collaboration on Scent of Attraction placed her directly in his orbit during a period when he was actively targeting young women. Online forums had whispered about Patra for years. On Lipstick Alley, users speculated that Hall had violently SA'd her and that she had left the industry as a result. While unverified, these rumors reflected a broader understanding that something terrible had happened to derail her career. The woman who had once commanded stages with confidence began showing signs of trauma after 1995. Her performances became less frequent. Her interviews grew shorter. Her famous braids, once a symbol of power and sexuality, seemed to weigh her down. Industry insiders noticed the change, but said nothing. In the 1990s entertainment world, protecting male stars was more important than acknowledging their victims. Women who complained were labeled difficult and quietly blacklisted. Patra never publicly accused Aaron Hall of assault, but her actions spoke louder than words. She stopped working with major male R&B artists. She retreated from the mainstream industry. She began speaking about needing to heal and become mentally prepared to return to music. By 2004, when she was orchestrating the visa fraud scheme, Patra had learned hard lessons about survival in an industry that viewed women as disposable. She had discovered that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford and that everyone was either predator or prey. The musicians she defrauded were victims of her desperation, but Patra herself was a victim of something far worse. The same industry that had celebrated her success had taught her that taking advantage of others was simply how the game was played. The Mysterious Disappearance. After Scent of Attraction peaked at number 82 in 1995, Patra began the slow process of erasing herself from the music industry. It wasn't a dramatic exit with farewell concerts or press announcements. Instead, she simply faded away, turning down interviews, canceling performances, and retreating to Jamaica. Her team at Epic Records was confused. The album had performed well enough to justify another release. Her fan base remained loyal. Industry connections were still calling with collaboration offers. But Patra had stopped returning phone calls. Friends noticed changes in her behavior. The confident performer who once commanded attention wherever she went became withdrawn and paranoid. She would scan rooms nervously when entering, as if looking for threats. She stopped attending industry parties and events where she might encounter certain people. When she did agree to interviews, her answers became vague and distant. Asked about future projects, she spoke about needing time to find herself and reconnect with her spiritual side. These phrases became her standard responses whenever journalists pressed for details about her career plans. The truth was that Patra was living in fear. The same industry that had made her famous had also traumatized her in ways she couldn't publicly discuss. Every studio session reminded her of what had happened with Aaron Hall. Every collaboration meeting with male executives triggered memories she was trying to suppress. By 1998, she had essentially stopped recording music entirely. Her contract with Epic Records expired without renewal discussions. Management companies stopped calling. The woman who had once been described as the female Shabba Ranks was no longer considered a viable commercial prospect. But disappearing from the music industry didn't solve her financial problems. Record label accounting meant that despite gold-certified sales, she had received minimal royalties. Legal disputes over publishing rights had drained her savings. Family members in Jamaica were still depending on her for support. Patra tried legitimate business ventures. She opened a small restaurant in Kingston, hoping to build success outside the entertainment world. She also considered returning to school to develop skills that didn't require performing or being in the public eye. None of these efforts generated enough income to maintain her lifestyle or support her extended family. By 2003, she was facing a financial crisis that threatened to destroy everything she had worked to build. The visa fraud scheme emerged from this desperation. Between October 2003 and November 2004, Patra used her remaining celebrity status to convince struggling musicians that she could help them escape Jamaica's limited opportunities. The operation was sophisticated. Musicians were told to leave money at the security desk of her Bogue Village residence, creating the appearance of legitimate business transactions. She provided detailed explanations about the visa application process and timeline for receiving documents. 10 musicians ultimately handed over $1,038,000 Jamaican dollars, representing their life savings and often money borrowed from family members. These weren't wealthy artists. They were struggling performers who saw Patra's international success as proof that escape from Jamaica was possible. For months, the musicians waited for their visas and social security cards to arrive. Patra provided regular updates, explaining delays and requesting patience. She seemed genuinely committed to helping them, which made the eventual revelation of fraud even more devastating. When the scheme finally collapsed in 2004, it wasn't because Patra confessed or returned the money. Instead, the musicians realized they had been deceived and approached police. The woman they had trusted to change their lives had stolen their dreams along with their money. The arrest in April 2005 marked the end of any possibility that Patra could rebuild her music career. The fraud charges made her radioactive in the entertainment industry, where reputation and trust were essential for securing deals and collaborations. During court proceedings, details emerged about the threats being made against complainants. One victim testified that he had been receiving anonymous calls, warning him to drop the charges. This suggested that Patra's legal troubles extended beyond simple financial desperation into potentially dangerous territory. The woman who had once been celebrated as dancehall royalty was now associated with criminal activity and broken promises. Her name became synonymous with betrayal rather than musical achievement. Secrets and connections. While Patra faced fraud charges in Jamaica, a much larger scandal was brewing in the American entertainment industry. The same men who had preyed on her were continuing their pattern of abuse with new victims, protected by an industry infrastructure that prioritized profit over safety. Aaron Hall's predatory behavior had been an open secret for years. Industry insiders knew about his relationships with underage girls, his violent tendencies, and his pattern of targeting vulnerable women. But his commercial success made him untouchable. The parties where Hall hunted for victims weren't random gatherings. They were organized industry events where business deals were made and careers were launched. Record label executives, radio programmers, and music video directors all attended these gatherings, creating networks of complicity that extended throughout the entertainment world. Gloria Velez's accusations against Hall in 2023 revealed how these networks operated. Uncle Luke, the former 2 Live Crew leader, was also named by Velez as someone who had groomed young women. When confronted with these allegations, Luke claimed he didn't even understand what grooming meant, despite running operations that regularly involved underage dancers and performers. The entertainment industry's structure made these abuses possible. Young women from economically disadvantaged backgrounds were brought into environments where they had no protection or advocate. They were surrounded by powerful men who controlled their career opportunities and financial survival. Patra's collaboration with Aaron Hall in 1995 placed her directly within this system. The recording session for Scent of Attraction wasn't just about making music. It was about a predator gaining access to a vulnerable young woman who had no one to protect her. The fact that Hall disappeared when served with legal papers in 2023 demonstrated how these men had always operated with impunity. They committed crimes confident that their victims would never be believed and that the industry would protect them if accusations emerged. Meanwhile, their victims were left to deal with trauma, financial ruin, and career destruction. Many, like Patra, were forced into desperate situations that led to their own legal troubles. The system that had failed to protect them as victims then criminalized them as survivors. The entertainment industry's response to these revelations was predictably self-serving. Labels distanced themselves from accused artists, but only after public pressure made association too costly. The same executives who had enabled abuse for decades suddenly claimed ignorance about behaviors that had been widely known. For Patra, watching these revelations emerge decades after her own experiences must have been both validating and infuriating. The truth she had been unable to speak was finally being exposed, but too late to save her career or prevent her own downfall. The visa fraud scheme she orchestrated in 2003 to 2004 reflected lessons learned from observing industry predators. She had seen how powerful people exploited trust and desperation for personal gain. When facing her own financial crisis, she applied those same methods to survive. The attempted comeback and lasting damage. In 2012, nearly 7 years after her fraud conviction, Patra signed with Veilstein Music and announced her return to the music industry. The buzz track, Bad in a Bed, was supposed to signal a new chapter for the former queen of the pack, but the industry she was trying to re-enter had changed completely. Streaming platforms had replaced radio as the primary way fans discovered music. Social media promotion required constant engagement with audiences. The provocative image that had made her famous in the 1990s now seemed dated compared to contemporary female artists who had built on the foundation she had helped create. Her 2014 album, Patra: The Continuation, received minimal promotion and failed to generate significant sales. The title itself seemed to acknowledge the enormous gap she was trying to bridge. Picking up a career that had been interrupted by trauma, legal troubles, and a decade-long absence from the spotlight. During this period, Patra had been rebuilding her life in ways that had nothing to do with music. She completed a bachelor's degree in history and political science, demonstrating intellectual capabilities that had been overshadowed by her entertainment career. She opened Chateau 7 Gourmet Restaurant in Kingston, spending 5 years in culinary school to master skills that could provide financial independence.
You went to culinary school and you also have your own restaurant.
Of course, I have my own restaurant.
Her restaurant became successful enough to cater for high-profile clients, including the European Union, the United States Embassy, and the United Nations. The New York Times praised her establishment, giving her the kind of positive press coverage that had been impossible during her legal troubles. But success in the culinary world couldn't erase the damage to her music career. When she performed at industry events, audiences responded with nostalgia rather than excitement about new material. She had become a legacy act, celebrated for past achievements rather than current relevance. Her appearance on DJ Cassidy's Reggae Pass the Mic show on BET in 2022 provided a perfect example of this dynamic. The audience erupted when she performed Romantic Call, but their enthusiasm was for the 27-year-old song, not for Patra as a contemporary artist. Social media reactions to her performances revealed how her reputation had been permanently altered. While many fans celebrated her return, comment sections frequently devolved into discussions about her legal troubles and speculation about what had really happened during her disappearance. Her decision to abandon her signature braids for a more conventional hairstyle symbolized her attempt to distance herself from the persona that had made her famous. The woman who once commanded attention through provocative styling now seemed to be seeking acceptance through respectability. The Aaron Hall allegations that surfaced in 2023 provided new context for understanding her career trajectory. When federal charges were filed against Hall and Diddy, describing assault patterns that match the timeline of Patra's collaboration with Hall, pieces of a long-hidden puzzle finally emerged. Online discussions about Hall's alleged victims began including Patra's name, with users speculating about whether her mysterious career decline had been connected to traumatic experiences with him. While she had never publicly accused Hall of assault, her supporters began reframing her story as one of survival rather than simply poor decision-making. Patra's recent attempts to address industry abuse have been careful and indirect. Her social media posts often include references to overcoming and surviving that resonate with other victims. But she has avoided making specific accusations that could result in legal retaliation. Her support for other women who have come forward against industry predators suggests solidarity born from shared experience. When Gloria Vellis accused Aaron Hall of abuse, Patra's social media activity indicated sympathy for someone who had experienced similar trauma. The tragedy of Patra's story extends beyond her individual experience to represent broader failures within the entertainment industry. Her transformation from international recording artist to fraud defendant illustrates how easily victims can become perpetrators when systems fail to provide protection or support. Today, Patra continues working on new music and performing occasionally, but her career serves as a cautionary tale about the hidden costs of entertainment industry success. The confidence and power that once defined her stage presence have been replaced by a more complex persona that carries visible scars from her experiences. Her influence on dancehall and hip-hop culture remains undeniable despite her criminal charges. Female artists who came after her built on the foundation she had helped create, often without knowing the full price she had paid to establish that groundwork. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.